Plants vs Zombies 2 is a metaphor for child exploitation, so today we end the child exploitation by knocking all these children overboard. But first, why don't you subscribe? I'm aiming for 50,000 subscribers by the end of the year, and every subscriber helps. And in case you missed it, the previous videos in this series are on the playlist on screen. We continue our OnlyFans journey onto the Pirate Seas Day 1, where we meet the MVP of this world, the Spring Bean. With the might of armies, the Spring Bean bounces on it so hard that he sends all the zombies in the vicinity off the plank. In fact, the Spring Bean goes so hard, he manages to solo Day 1 solo. Continuing on to Day 2, we actually managed to use the blower for the first time, and I learnt how overpowered this little guy actually is, since any flying zombie that approaches, which in this case is the seagull zombie, gets blown away all the way back to Big Tesco. Needless to say, we beat this day on our first attempt. As we move on to Day 3, things start to get a little bit boring since there's only so many times I can say the Spring Bean carried me. So instead of covering this day, I decided to go boot up the hit game Cyberpunk 2077, where I saw Corp strip farmers of water and eventually of land, saw them transform Night City into a machine fueled by people's crushed spirits and broken dreams. Corps have long controlled our lives, taken lots, and now they're after our souls. I've declared war not because capitalism's a thorn in my side or out of nostalgia for an America gone by. This war's a people's war against the system that spiraled out of control. Moving on to Day 4, nothing of note happened, so I sat there with my thumb literally up my ass, waiting for the day to be over. Same goes for Day 5, with the only difference being we are introduced to a next new zombie type, the Swinger Zombie, who swings on it sexual style before meeting his end to the Spring Bean. Needless to say, this day made me just a sleepy little guy. Day 6 was the first day of the world where I started to lose my grasp on reality. I was just going with the flow at this point, and I was so unimmersed, I accidentally did this boring ass day twice. And we actually managed to beat it on our first attempt on both occasions. On Day 7 we encounter our next zombie type, the Barrel Zombie, who rolls his sack into our garden, ready to release his little spawns of Satan. This was yet another boring ass day, so instead of covering it, I decided to go boot up Fallout 4, where Jane Fallout decided to try some Ghoulusy. This was followed by Day 8, where Chill Bill makes his amazing return. I haven't showered in weeks! Then we move on to Day 9, which was another dull day, so I don't want to shit in my pants. Day 9 was followed by Day 10, where we meet yet another new zombie type, the Cannon Zombie, who fires out kids like he's Catholic. And once again, this was another boring day, so instead of playing this day, I decided to go and play some Plants vs Zombies Replanted. With Day 10 complete, we move swiftly on to Day 11, where the Spring Bean springs all over the beans. We actually had a slight close call on this day, but with the power of our Spring Bean, we managed to get incredibly lucky and beat this day on our first attempt. On Day 12 we got to play with Dave's giant nuts, and on Day 13 we had our very first sun production day. So the time has finally come. I had to choose my sun producer for this challenge, and in the end I decided to go with the Fan Stool, since he gobbles up the zombies from a great distance, which technically displaces them, meaning this counts as a knockback. That, and it has been the Fan Stool's lifelong dream to be a fan, and I just can't say no to the guy. I wouldn't crush his dreams like that. I'm not a hydraulic press. Unfortunately, I failed to realise that the Fan Stool refused to make more than 50 sun at a time, and I actually failed this day. On my next attempt, I decided to bring in the Gold Leaf, which doesn't affect zombies in the slightest, but it helps with sun generation, and if you think about it, sun kind of looks like a fan anyway, so we're rolling with it. In the end, we managed to beat this day on our second attempt. Moving on to Day 14, it was a Plan Your Defences day, and it was a pretty simple day that the Spring Bean carried me through, so I just continued straight on to Day 15, where I was greeted with the 3-peater, who was there when I got here. I was actually deliberating showing the uncensored nasty 3-peater art on this video, but when I realised I had to pay bills at the end of this month, I decided against it. If you want to see the 3-peater image, maybe I'll show it to you live on Twitch, so come over to twitch.tv/Huey so I can scar you for life. Day 16 was an endangered plant day where we had to protect some spring beans, which we managed to do by planting even more spring beans. This was another easy bog standard day, so instead of covering it further, I decided to go boot up Borderlands 4 and oh for fuck's sake. Day 17 was a day where we actually had a bit of trouble. Since there were so many Catholics about, we struggled to take them all down due to our lack of range. In fact, the only way we could take out the cannon imps was to plant food the nightshade and hope for the best. With this strategy, we did manage to beat day 17 on our first attempt. Continuing on to day 18, we gently pushed some children into the ocean before going to play some Disco Elysium for the working class. Unfortunately, I failed to reinstate communism, so I continued on to day 19, where me and chat decided we were going to go watch the hit video PVZ2, but every time I placed a nut, I busted a nut in real life, where my guy drops a slur within the first 3 seconds. But don't worry guys, it was censored, therefore ableism is no more. I'm more impressed that this video was allowed on YouTube at all, to be honest. How the fuck do I get to this level of impunity? Day 20 was another sun producing day where we had to bring out the fan stool, but unfortunately the day just wasn't long enough to produce the necessary sun to pass with this little guy. But then something magical happened. The seams of the universe started to crack, imbuing the fan stool with such immense power that he could chew marginally quicker. With this new power at our side, we managed to beat this day on our 3rd attempt. This was followed by day 21, where the fan stool was once again here to aid us on this journey, helping us beat the day with ease. And then day 22 was a plan your defences day, where we proved our superiority to the zombies by beating the day on our first go with only spring beans. The final 2 days of this world were once again nothing special. Day 23 was a day that had an immense challenge of killing 8 zombies in 10 seconds, but due to most of my lineup being porn stars, this day took a long time to finish, and in that time we didn't manage to kill 8 zombies within 10 seconds, meaning we then had to repeat this day multiple times until somehow we just managed it. I'm literally just going to put it down to luck and the spring beans' immense power. This was followed by day 24, the final proper day of Pirate Seas, where we once again had to protect the endangered spring beans. This was yet another simple day, but towards the end we actually ran out of plant food, so we had to menacingly stare at these cannon imps until eventually they surrendered, and we beat this day on our first attempt after about 15 minutes of my thumb being firmly up my ass. Now that Pirate Seas is complete, we can go face the Zomboss, where we get our good old friend, YouTube commenter, the Top Hat Clan 67 to save us with Free Peter Fred, and in the end the Zomboss fired his kids at us and went down, ending the Pirate Seas. If you want to assist me on my next OnlyFans video, remember to comment for the working class in the comments below. I for one am getting kind of sick of the really inconsistent difficulty of Plants vs Zombies 2, so I'm actually pretty excited to see how this challenge picks up further into the game, but in the meantime, why don't you go check out my other challenges on different games, such as Lego Batman and Fallout, because if you don't, I'm gonna steal your ice cream.